So it was just the other day that I was thinking about the new Minecraft 1.14 mechanics and a new way in which to get XP. This led me to start to think about how you could store potential XP inside of a shulker box. So then I was thinking, well, perhaps you've died in your world, you're a long way away from an XP farm, and maybe you want some XP stored up inside of a shulker box. We're going to ask this question and answer it in this video. How much XP can you store inside of a shulker box? But first of all, we're actually going to go and investigate this new way of getting XP in 1.14, which is from the Grindstone, taking advantage of the disenchantment feature, which actually gives you XP. So in theory, you can store items inside of a shulker box and then get XP from them. Now, of course, this is an episode of myth busting, so we are in the myth busting world to do our research and investigation. And first of all, I'd like to introduce you to the other mechanic of the Grindstone. That is the ability for it to repair items together. Now, in 1.14.3, you can still do this in the crafting bench like it used to be. But the idea was to move this to the Grindstone, and there's no XP reward for doing this. So although this block can give us XP, we won't get it from repairing items. What we get it from is disenchanting. So if we give it a book like this one right here, we can disenchant it, and as you can see, it gives us a tiny bit of XP. The Grindstone technically has one other use. You see, I learned a little trick with the anvil over here. If we go in and rename it, it actually costs us to rename. So let's go ahead and also give it an enchantment. Then go and disenchant this sword, which is going to reset its repair cost. So now when we go in and we have this renamed item that we put sharpness on, it only costs 1 level. Let's compare that to this right here with the renamed effect. It would cost us 2 levels. So, you know, cheap little trick right there. You can just disenchant something and then keep the name. There is also 2 enchantments that don't disenchant, should I say curses though. The Curse of Vanishing will stay on the book. As you can hear, the block gets activated. You don't get any XP. That would have been a real exploit if that were possible. And that is true for both of the curses. If we put it in like this though, you'll see all the other enchantments get removed. We get XP for that, but the curses will stay on. So let's get back on track. I was thinking about how this would work in survival Minecraft, and then I thought of AFK fishing farms, which provide a lot of loot. You can get enchanted fishing rods, enchanted bows, you can also get enchanted books, and that's the first place that I wanted to start, because you tend to stockpile a lot of these up. So let's go into the Grindstone and first of all take a low level enchantment, and you'll see we get a small amount of XP. Now what I've learned is the amount of XP that you get is random, and it tends to scale on the amount of levels as well. So that time you saw we got a lot more XP, and that's because it was a higher enchantment. Now I've got a bunch of sharpness 5s books here, and we're going to show the randomness. You see that time we got level 4, you can actually get a little bit higher than that. Let's do it again, and that time level 2. I have seen it, I think, go a little bit lower than that as well, so it can be quite varied. And to figure out what's going on here, I've been doing the grind, going through book after book after book and trying to suss out what exactly is going on, and it would appear that the higher the level, the more XP you get. However, the difference between level 2 and level 5 isn't really that much. But level 1, for example, you won't get a lot of XP, and that means a book like Mending that we would consider to be rather valuable is actually not worth a lot of XP. However, there are some exceptions to this rule. Thorns 3, for example, will always yield a high amount of XP for a level 3 enchantment. And Aqua Infinity will always yield the absolute bare minimum that it can. You can see that is the smallest amount of XP you can get from a book, and you'll get it every time. And thanks to Sky Rising, who is a member of the Psycraft Discord server, we now have an answer to exactly what is going on here. It is all linked to the enchantment table and the minimum level at which you will first see a type of enchantment. So here is a list of those numbers from the Minecraft wiki. They might not be 100% correct, but for example, Aqua Infinity, its minimum level it will appear at is 1, and it gives us 1 XP every single time. So if you take the first number here, for example, let's have a look at sharpness, 5 is 45. That's the amount of XP points that the game can give you at maximum. So if you go to any enchantment here, look at its level, take the first number, and then you can determine how much XP you'll get from it. So what the game does is it gets that number and then it's going to give between 50 and 100% of that number in XP points. Now Fawn's Free yields 50 points, so the maximum you can get is 50, which would be that much XP. And the minimum you would get from it would be this much. So 50 points of XP being 100% and 25 points being 50%. So I did some further investigation to see if there was any way to wrangle more XP points out of this. If you put multiple enchantments on a book together, you don't get any kind of bonus. If you use an expensive combination order inside of the anvil, again, there is no bonus for doing this. If you use a different material like a stone sword or a diamond sword, there is no difference. It's all based on the enchantment alone. And now I have some interesting things inside of these command blocks which are going to tell us how much XP we can store inside of a shulker box using this method. There are other methods as well, we're going to get to that real soon. I'm just butting in to say, hey, if you're not subscribed and you're enjoying this video, then hit the subscribe button and catch more of these videos in the future. Right, now let's get to the good stuff. So I'm going to throw a whole bunch of numbers your way now, and these are XP points. And remember, you can get up to 100% of these and as low as 50%. Now the first item I have is a sword with the best possible combination of enchantments to get you 202 XP points in total. That's the most that you can do, and the most that you can do on armor is 193 with this combination. Now between 1.14 and 1.14.2 you could create what was known as God Armor, where you could stack the wrong enchantments onto armor, and with that you'd be able to get 218 points on this helmet. So of course the idea is how much can we store in a shulker box? Over here, you can get that many points for 50 plus levels from all of these swords. And then 49 plus levels for that many XP points. And over here, almost 52 levels. And remember, of course, you'd be incredibly lucky to get 100% on all of those, so it would be significantly less. So maybe right now you're thinking, this is ridiculous, there's no way I would ever do that. I should just build an XP farm if I really needed it. And I would agree with you, for the amount of work it would take to create something like this, it's probably worth the trip to an XP farm or building one from scratch. The thing is though, there could be a killer application for this that I just haven't thought of. So if you can think of an idea where you actually have no other way to access XP and this would actually be useful, then please do comment down below because I'm going to show some easier methods in a moment. But before we do that, one last little thing I'd like to take a look at here. I was thinking back to my Season 4 Hermitcraft base, which we're in right now, and how I had chests upon chests of items like this from fishing. And you know what, I could just chuck them all in a shulker box and they'd probably yield a reasonable amount of XP. So that's exactly what I've done. I've chucked in a load of these books, we're going to take them back to the myth-busting world. Of course this isn't the most XP, but it's kind of convenient if you've got loads of these lying around. So with the power of world editing tools, I've brought that exact shulker box into this world. So we're going to chuck all of these into the grindstone and see how much XP we get from them. "23 levels, I'd say that's not so bad. The lesson here really is hold on to those books if you use fishing farms, and on occasion you can use them to get a little bit of XP. So how about those 3 other shulker boxes that I've been teasing? The first one you can probably guess is pretty straightforward. These bottles of experience can yield between 3 and 11, and that means with astronomical odds, you could potentially earn from a full shulker box like this 19,000 experience points, which is as much as 223 levels. Now, we don't even need to comment about how long that would take to trade with villagers and how many emeralds you need, but speaking of that, the default trade in 1.14 is 10 emeralds for a bottle, which would mean you'd need more than that. Absolutely bonkers. However, after you do a bit of trading, the price does go down, of course, but anyway, I don't think anyone's realistically going to fill up a whole shulker box full of these bottles. What do you mean you want to trade? I'm just editing the last clip I just recorded. What? That guy wandered off the edge of the platform. Oh dear. And now I find your friends hanging out just over here. I was just heading over to this part of the world, which I haven't been to for a long time. This test right here was done so long ago in the Myth-Busting series that I don't think Nether Quartz was a part of the game yet. So we're going to amend this chart on the wall and add this number right here. It's the amount of XP that you can get for breaking Nether Quartz between 2 and 5. So you can see all the other values right there. and which one is the highest that you can actually get in survival mode. So we're going to ignore the monster spawner. It is, of course, diamond ore and emerald ore. And so you probably know what's next, and yes, this is going to be ridiculous in survival mode, but a whole shulker box full of diamond ore or emerald ore would yield you 49 to 68 levels of XP. Of course, you'd have to place them all down and break them, which would take a fair amount of time, and this next one is probably going to be the slowest of all three of these. Oh, yes it is, and smelting is the magic word. You're going to need hoppers and fuel and furnaces as well, and a whole bunch of time, I know, but I wanted to crunch the numbers anyway. So the most that you can get from an item, you might think is 1. Diamond ore, emerald, gold, and cactus all yield 1 XP for each item smelted, but there is another item, and that is the clay block, but it only yields 0.35. However, you can break it down into these pieces of clay, and they yield 0.3 each, which means that in theory can be turned into 1.2 if you break it down, which means that's the most smeltable fuel you can store inside a single shulker box, right? So if we go around the corner and open this one up, we have a whole box here full of clay that you could break down, and it would totally not be worth it because you'd only get 35 levels of experience in total. And so now we do the honours. This furnace right here has smelted 6,912 bricks from clay, and that is the very last one of them. And there you go, there's our 35 levels of XP. And so now I wonder what is going to be my grand conclusion from all of this. Unless we find a killer app where you absolutely need some form of stored XP inside of a shulker box, I think the general advice is just to hang on to any items that you've got enchantments on them, leave them in a chest somewhere, and maybe one day they'll be useful, save you a trip to your XP farm, chuck them in the grindstone and get a few levels of XP. Nothing tremendous, but I had a lot of fun doing this and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave a like, it supports the channel. Thank you as always. Make sure you subscribe and I'll see you soon with another one. Bye bye.